We have with us today His Majesty Osagiofu Omatia Ofore Pene, the Ochini, King of Akim Abaka, Ghana, Africa.
Please be seated. What a great place to be this morning. When we woke up this morning, we didn't have the strength to get up, but He gave us the strength. We had no power to turn our eyes open, but He opened our eyes. We were able to put our intellectual capacity in place to think and to read because He says so. What a friend we have in Jesus. I'd like to, first of all, thank you, all of you, for bringing us here today. I'd like to have a special thanks for Pastor Anderson, Gary Clark, Paul Williams, the headmaster, who has a wonderful leadership in leading this school to what it's been able to accomplish. David and Kay Trines, who have hosted us. Deborah Clark, Meredith, Bill, Bruce, many people have had. But in our life, the superstar is Jesus. Right here in Killian Church, Nancy Ball. That's why no people, no organization, no country can afford to ignore its history. History preserves continuity. It reminds those of us who are here to remember that we are here because somebody else created a path for us to walk in. There is and there was a modern-day existentialist called Søren Kierkegaard. He made a profound statement that life is just understood backwards, but it's lived forward. What Kierkegaard was telling us with that statement is every now and then, as we pursue this forward march in our lives, we need to pause and cast a retrospective glance at our past, to see where we were and those who came before us, how they lived their lives, and to expunge from there the good things as it becomes relevant for our lives today. As Headmaster Williams said, you just have to look at Nancy and see what she did, and maybe you young ones will emulate that. That is the richness of what we do. And so when we as Christians come around, we need to understand the man I call the only man who had a right to be a dictator on the face of this earth. He had a mission statement. Through Isaiah, he said, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He has anointed me to preach the good news to the poor, to proclaim freedom for the prisoners, to recover the sight of the blind, to release the oppressed, and to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." Jesus Christ. Now, if you take this statement, that's what all of us have to live for. It's a statement that means you have to live for the other. It's a statement that goes to say a lot about sacrifice and struggle. It's a statement that calls for service. That's what the school teaches. And that's what Killian Hill Baptist Church has been in the forefront in bringing to our people in Ghana. You know, when you look at those pictures, one may wonder why. Why should we deny a child in Ghana the opportunities that the children of Killian Hill Church have? Why should a child, because of the geography of birth, deny a clean glass of water? Why would a 5-year-old die of malaria that can be cured maybe with a $1 prescription? It all comes under poverty. And poverty is a crime. If you think about what God has done for humanity, what we in Africa have been blessed with, there's not another continent blessed with the abundance of diversity as we have. And yet, our people remain in the deadly grave of poverty, buffeted by environmental degradation. The poverty that you may have in Atlanta is different from the poverty you may see in those pictures. And the poverty in America are called the poverty within opportunity. As Headmaster Williams said, there's plenty of opportunity in America. So when people are poor here, they just have to find and discover opportunity. The poverty you see up north in Wa and other areas is poverty without option. In that poverty, you don't know what you're going to eat. You have no choice where you sleep. When it rains, you get wet. When it's muddy, you're dirty. Your stomach hurts because there's no food. When you're sick, you die. You've seen pictures of little African babies sitting on their mother's lap trying to get milk from an empty breast. You see the misery in their faces. Mother and child looking for help. But there's no help coming. In that poverty, you can't fight it. And you can't change it. That poverty leaves a festering sore on the face of humanity. In the end, you just have to accept it. It's almost like a cultural suicide. And the world watches. Bit by bit, Killian Church, Nancy Ball, all the leaders of this church are trying to change that in a portion of Ghana. We cannot resolve the world's problem, all of it, overnight. But with time and with trust in Jesus, we'll bit by bit bring humanity together. The world is not a first, second, or third world. God, in his wisdom, decided to lump all humanity on this planet Earth. He knew why. When the Apollo expedition went up to space and came back, they said, well, we may be divided by political boundaries, but we are united by one ecology. That's a statement. And if you think about today where walls have been broken, when distances have collapsed, shrinking distances with global awareness, it makes sense that all the children of the world belong to all the people of the world. The problem of Africa is the world's problem. We delude ourselves to think that a situation in Ghana may not affect somebody here in Atlanta. We have 1.7 billion people traveling and arriving in airports every day. This is one world or one people. And we can resolve this in this lifetime. What was his name? Jeffrey Sachs said one time that he thinks that we can eliminate this poverty in our lifetime, and I agree with him. There's so much. But we need to have leaders who are committed, leaders who are Christians, leaders who believe in the world of change, leaders who are symbols of selflessness, leaders who don't believe in amassing wealth. If you look at the life of Jesus, there's no place you read that Jesus had all the toys in the world, that he was looking to buy more cars, he had many property. All he came to do is to struggle and suffer and sacrifice for you and I. And so if you're a Christian, the acquisition of material wealth more often with no regard to that acquisition's consequence on the rest of society is something that you have to review. Last night we were in the train's house. When we left, my wife told me that, my goodness, how could such a family be so fortunate to have built what they have and yet be so humble and loving to people? Humility is a virtue. And that's what Jesus said. Remember the story when Jesus himself, the superstar, I think, which to call him 2,000 years later, who had a sense of humility to say to his disciples, I will wash your feet. If I were there, I would question Jesus. No, I'm not going to let you do this. You, Jesus, wrapping a towel around your waist and washing the feet of your disciples. And then he would say that if ever you want to be great, you need to serve. That's what we have forgotten. That's what African leadership don't understand. If you ever want to be great, serve. I'm here as king of Achimogwaka. It is meaningless to me unless I'll be able to serve my people. And when I come to places like this, the only one king, his name is Jesus. He drives me. He makes me define the office. He tells me that you have to love thy neighbor as thyself. It's a commandment. It's not a choice. And all the years that we've been here, humans have tried to divide people. And we notice that it is not going to work. We have to invest in Africa in education for our children. Education that is backed by a Christian belief. Every child deserves a table to write on, a chair to sit on, and a good teacher to learn from. Poverty should never be a bar to learning. In fact, if we're smart, learning will provide an escape from poverty. That's why the school in Sege is transforming livelihoods, changing lives for better. We have made this our goal in life. Our goal in life is to transform livelihood. Sometimes we're short, sometimes we are frustrated about things that happen in our country. But you know what? Our song says we need to resist oppressors' rule. That's what the anthem said. And I read somewhere when the Declaration of Independence was initiated, it read, the Trinity read, life, liberty, and property. And then Jefferson and the rest. Jefferson himself, a landowner. Jefferson owned property, but he felt it right that he should replace the part of the Trinity that said property with the pursuit of happiness. That's what God wishes for all mankind, for us to have a desire to be happy. What's the point? Owning all the homes, all the properties, and yet not being happy. And happiness is equated in when you get up and you know that through you, through the strength and the belief in Jesus, you've been able to transform some child's life. You know, the great American Martin Luther King said once that the measure of a man is not where he stands in times of comfort and convenience. He said the measure of the man is where he stands in times of challenges and controversy. As we pursue this agenda, We're going to face challenges. But like Nancy Ball, she didn't quit. Like this church is not quitting. Like I am not going to quit. We need to speak up against injustice in the world. We need to speak up even if that voice, especially is a voice of reason and compassion. That voice may not be accepted. It may not be understood. It may be going up against a compelling and prevailing opinion. But speak it anyway. If we don't, we'll be on the side of evil. If we don't, as a Christian, we'll be guilty bystanders. But we're going to speak it, even if the stones were here. Because part of the democracy that the voiceless must be heard. And so that's what we're going to do. Many times, we keep quiet and have the oppressors have their way. It was through speaking that Mandela was able to liberate South Africa. He liberated South Africa for South Africans to host the World Cup. It was through speaking that Luther King, at the memorial 50 years ago, made a profound statement and said to the world that he'd like to live in a country one day where his 4 little children will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. When he made that statement, this president in the White House was 2 years old. Little did he know that somebody was fighting on his behalf. Life is all about the struggle. And for you, young people, it is about discipline and respect. It is about integrity and honesty. You know, the first character trait that young people should learn is integrity, and the last that humanity should forget. It is perhaps the most striking phrase that one can utter to another. I gave my word. When you give your word, you keep your word. That's what the world is about. We in Ghana, many times, have shed tears of frustration, knowing that some of the things that we have done have left a permanent sore in the face of humanity. But pray that the little that we have will maybe be able to change the world. Many times, as Gary will tell you, when you come to where I live, it's a quiet, modest town. I left my family here to go and do what I'm doing. But 2 o'clock many times in the morning, I've woken up to say, what am I doing here? Because you get frustrated to see poverty at the first hand, and when you are helpless, alone, and you can't fix it, it brings some disappointment to you. But then I remember a book I read, Purpose-Driven Life, Rick Warren. The first sentence in the first chapter of that book reminds me, Osajifo, it's not about you. It is not about you. Life is not about us. It's about the purpose for which God put us here for. That's what life is all about. So what we're doing is not due to our strength. It's the purpose that we've been assigned. And if you follow that and read the scripture and remember that when he died for us and he said it is finished, even there, he said, John, you take care of my mother. Responsibility of how women are precious in our lives. How we need to protect our women because they are the ones that bring life onto this earth. How we stop abusing women because the most oppressive era in humanity's life is how the world has abused our women. If we treat them with respect, then we're living the life of Jesus. He said to John, take care of my mother. And so with that, I tell you, I am so delighted that in this cloth and the songs that these ladies sang and the anthem and the flags coming from different places with different backgrounds right here in this school, but we come together under one name, Jesus Christ. We're not going to give up. This country cannot give up. The world should not give up. We are facing challenges in trying to to preach the word. But you know what? You never be afraid. Preach it anywhere if the stones will hear. God bless you, and thank you for having us.